welcome to Building Together. My name is Kyrie Kemp, and in this series, we'll be interviewing young professionals to learn more about their areas of expertise while sharing their fundamental thoughts and ideas to help you achieve your goals. Looking to explore a career in finance or learn more about personal financial management? Well, that's exactly what our guest today is going to talk about. He's going to talk about two things. First is his career in finance and how he got started. And second is the financial mindset and how to think about managing your finances. So his background, a great friend of mine from UCLA. From the moment I met him, I knew he was a leader. He served as a treasurer prior to graduation, and now he works at KPMG, which is one of the top 4 largest financial services firms in the world. He was born and raised in Southern California, here in Long Beach, and he's worked extremely hard to get where he is today. I'd like to introduce Anthony Van Guyse. Anthony, thank you so much for joining and being the first guest on our series.
Thanks, Kyrie. Wow, what an intro, man. Appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, just want to say thanks again for having me.
I'm really glad that you can make it. And, this is historical. So to get started, I think that maybe you could fill in a little bit of the gaps. I kind of just gave the overview, but you can, let them know a little bit more about who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I graduated UCLA in 2015. I studied business economics as my major and minored in accounting. And while I enjoyed economics, and I still do, I took a particular liking to accounting because I appreciated how applicable and practical it was in everyday life. So I decided that was the path I ultimately wanted to take my career. The summer before my senior year, I got an internship with KPMG. And then following graduation, I accepted my full-time offer, and I have been there ever since. So that puts me at about 4.5 years with the firm. For the first 3.5, I worked in the audit practice. For those of you that don't know what audit is, it's basically when a group of accountants come in and they look at a company's financial statements. And they provide assurance that, these numbers that are being presented to investors and whoever else are materially accurate. And when I say financial statements, I'm referring primarily to a couple. There's the income statement, which is and everybody has an income statement, not just companies. It's your income less your expenses, and that gives you your earnings or your net income. And then on the other side, there's the balance sheet. For the balance sheet, you're looking at assets, which is what you own, the liabilities, which is what you owe, and then the leftover is called equity. So for the last year, I've been working in a little bit of a different role. The practice is called financial due diligence, and this is more of a consulting role where same thing, group of accountants come in, but now we're looking at a company that wants to sell itself. And what we're basically doing is taking a look under the hood, and we're diving into the numbers. We're really getting a good sense of, how much money is this company really making? How successful are they? What do their customer base look like? Everything like that. And we play a key role in helping determine the valuation of a company.
Right. Checking out the health, right? Like how well it is.
Exactly. The well-being, you might say, of a company. Absolutely, Kyrie. So along this journey, I got to thinking, and I was like, okay, like I understand these things called financial statements. These are telling a story, Kyrie, like you just referred to. It's telling me and investors and whoever the well-being of a company, how well they're performing, how much money they're generating, all this. And I got to thinking, I was like, well, I think I can leverage this knowledge now to become a successful investor. So thus was born my passion for investing in the stock market. And that has now led me to my current pursuit of obtaining my CFA certification, which stands for Chartered Financial Analyst. And just more recently, I've I was thinking, and it's like, I love investing in stocks. It's great. I'm going to do it the rest of my life. But I had a desire to learn something new, learn to invest in something new. So after many hours of reading, listening to podcasts, Kyrie, I talked to you about it. I talked to a lot of other people about it, but I decided that something was real estate. And fast forward a few months only, and here I am. My business partner and I, another friend from UCLA, have officially launched our business and have our first short-term rental property up and running.
That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like you found your groove with finance, and then you kind of just kept building upon that knowledge and seeking new ways to learn and get better. So I guess just to back it up a little bit out there, how did you know that you wanted to pursue a career in finance?
Yep. Well, I was always, I guess, kind of a numbers kid growing up, and whether that was, I remember I had this little jar that would count, basically it would measure the diameter of a coin that you would put in it, and so I'd be able to tell which type of coin it was, and I loved that thing because it would count, and I would scrounge around, grab up all the coins I could, all my change, and I would love seeing that number increase. And then I'd go take it to the local grocery store or whatever, and cash in my coins for money. I'd say it kind of started there. And then obviously then, when we met in our fraternity, and I became the treasurer there, and assuming that leadership role, that really helped solidify the fact that I wanted to pursue this path.
It's apparent that you are interested in finance for a really long time. So what would you tell our students and viewers now about their experience in high school and what they could do to get ahead? Or the second part of that question is, what would you do differently in high school now that you know everything that you know today?
That's a great question, and it's actually a pretty easy one to answer. I would say start saving and investing early. And more specifically, I guess when I was in high school, I wish I knew and understood the concept and power of what's called compounding interest.
Yeah, I guess for them, yeah. What is that? What is compounding interest?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll break it down. So, compound refers to the process of growing, and interest refers to a return you're earning on your savings or investment. So together, compound interest refers to growing your return on your investment. So I think if we maybe talk through an example, that might help contextualize a little bit more.
Okay.
Is that cool with you guys?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the first thing we need is a place to invest. So a common place and what's considered a surefire, consistent performer over many years has been what's called the S&P 500. This is an index or group of the largest publicly traded companies in the American stock market. So over its history, the S&P 500 has averaged an annual return of about 8%. So let's use that number and put it into compounding interest. So say for example, you take $100, 10 years ago, you put $100 in the S&P 500. Sit back, relax, do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
When you check in 10 years later, that 100 has now become $216. It's more than doubled, and you did nothing.
Right. So
you're probably wondering, well, okay, what's going on behind the scenes here?
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening is your initial investment after your first year, you're getting that 8% return, right? You're getting that $8 on your 100. But now here's the kicker, and this is why compounding interest is often referred to as interest on interest, because for every year after that first year, now you are earning that 8% on not only your initial investment, but all the interest you've earned to date. So that adds this multiplying effect that grows your wealth.
When they say, have your money work for you, right?
Exactly. That's putting your money to work for you. So here's a little more realistic example. And we're still talking small numbers that are very realistic that any of us can do. So $100. 10 years ago, you put it in. But now instead of just sitting back the whole time, now it's just, okay, well, every year I'm going to put $100 more into the S&P 500. Well, now if you did that over 10 years, well, now that initial 100, you're going to end up with $1,780 at the end of it. So a big difference there, right? And I think you can start to imagine, we're looking at a small scale with small numbers and a short timeline. I think if now you imagine, expand that timeline, expand that investment amount that you're making, it's going to be more than $100, because I know everyone's going to have a good job after they graduate from that great college. And now you can see that this creates a snowball effect that's going to grow your money exponentially for you over time.
Got it. Okay. So I think that was really well said. And, for you guys, the key there is to start learning about it as best you can. Even your parents, might be thinking about retirement accounts and things like that, which is, when people are investing small bits of their paychecks, to cash out at like 65 years old or something like that. So I think he's right on to get started early. He used amounts that, you all can relate to, $100, he said 10 years ago, and broke down what it equates to. So I think that was a really great example. And I'll be honest, what happened was we told a few students that we would have you to interview with us, and we were able to get a heads up on a few questions. The first question that we have here, nice and easy, it's what are some ways that I can make money? You mentioned saving, you mentioned investing, and to be able to do that, you have to generate that money in the first place. So they wanted to pick your brain and understand how to get that, especially during these times with school shutdowns and the coronavirus being so impactful. How can they make money today?
Hey, that's a fair question. Absolutely. And we all want to make money at some point, I assume. So we actually just talked about one. Investing is one way. And this is actually my favorite way to generate income because it's passive. And what I mean by that is you alluded to it earlier, Kyrie, it's making your money do the work for you. Meanwhile, like I could be sitting back, I could be at the beach getting a tan, and in the background, compounding interest is working its magic, and all that interest that I'm earning, that is my income. So I'm generating income without really doing anything. So thus, it's my favorite way to generate income. That being said, you do need to have a brokerage account to invest. So, there's a downside here. You have to be 18 to open the brokerage account. So if you're not 18, you're out of luck, I guess, right?
Or for investments, for now, but they can still learn about it.
There's a very easy workaround, and it's called your parents or your legal guardian. Okay. And it's as simple as, having your parents, if they don't already, which many do, but if they don't, you say, hey, mom, hey, dad, would you consider opening up a brokerage account? And I can, I want to put some of my birthday money or my allowance into that, and I want to buy the S&P 500. They're going to be super impressed with you, and two, you're doing exactly what you should be doing to start that path, starting early and getting, you're going to be well on your way ahead of the pack. Starting to generate financial wealth for yourself down the road. So regarding getting started investing, I'd like to recommend the book that I use to get started. It's called Learn to Earn by Peter Lynch. It's very, very easy read, and it really does help helps you develop that mindset that you need that really is going to set you up for success in the future.
That's a good one. Okay. So yeah, and that makes a lot of sense to me. I guess, right now there's a lot of uncertainty, school cancellations due to like the coronavirus and such. So as an additional way, I'd say to make money, maybe, these students are not looking to invest right now, even though there are some opportunity.
Great point, Kyrie. Yeah, so we're going to get to the next one, which is the most obvious one, the most common one, and that's as simple as, getting a job. The job market changes over time, but generally speaking, there is somewhere there's going to be a need. I mean, there's always opportunities. So, For example, you see like Amazon and Walmart are hiring people, hundreds of thousands of new workers now to help, with their, fulfillment of all these essential goods that we need to get to people. But, whether that's, bagging groceries or whatever, I got my first job when I was 16, working in a library, making sure books were in the right order. I mean, I'll tell you, it wasn't thrilling stuff, but I'll tell you that feeling of having my own income and my own money that I can kind of decide what to do with was a great feeling. One thing I would just want to point out is that if you are under the age of 18, more likely than not, you will have to obtain a work permit. But, Google it, easy process, and you can get started generating income right away. And then another method is actually starting your own micro business, or what's more commonly referred to as a side hustle. And Kyrie, you wrote the book on that one, so I'm going to let you take that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the handoff there. So yeah, starting your own micro business, the idea for those students and viewers out there is to get started with small business experiments. So it would be to, see what you can do, assess, your skills and abilities, see what you have available, and start thinking about those opportunities. And the book has a 10-step roadmap for you to evaluate ideas and also execute those ideas, but even how to establish your goals. Do you want to make, a lot of money? So you need to do something like very lucrative, or do you need to, is it just that you want a little bit of side income? So, you want to contribute a few hours a week, but the idea helps you get started with these business experiments and creates a framework so that you can actually scale and expand it into a full-blown operation if it is successful. So that is what the book is about. So thanks for the handoff.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're just saying a side hustle can be like any number of things, right? We're talking, it could be, mowing lawns in your neighborhood for your neighbors. It could be, babysitting and walking dogs, right? It feels like the opportunity is almost endless.
Right. And so I'll take this as a moment just for them, because side hustles, generally, I'd say that the stigma that we think of side hustles with, it's not really scalable. But in our book, like, we tell them how to think of it in terms of a micro business instead of a side hustle, because
Right.
it has that future sort of way of looking at it to where you want to get bigger if you can. So yeah, if you think about it like, hey, you just want to mow lawns, you can't really scale that beyond how many lawns you mow. But if you want to have a lawn mowing operation, you want to have some friends, you want to hire people that also mow some lawns for you, and you have this operation of mowing lawns in your neighborhood.
Yep.
That can grow to where, kind of like what you mentioned earlier with investment, where you can get a tan while still making money.
Hey, that's the dream, right?
Right. No, so I think that's a great point. And so, yeah, starting your own micro business, we'll make sure that the link is attached to this video. That way you guys can check out that book. It's an easy read, about 100 pages, and it'll help you get started, give you that roadmap. So yeah, that's something that I'd recommend. And thanks for, pointing them to that resource. Now, shifting gears a little bit into personal finances, I think that our students and viewers who want to learn more about how to manage those finances, maybe with technology, maybe what systems you'd recommend to get started, to have it clean and organized. What do you think?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I think we all are aware that, technology has just really, taken the world by storm over this past couple decades, and it's only becoming a bigger and bigger part of our lives. And the beauty of it is it tends to make our lives easier. So, for example, in the realm of personal finance, I would say jump into the App Store. There is a ton of free personal finance apps there. My personal favorite is Mint by Intuit, but like I said, there's a ton. I mean, basically what you have to do is you'll link up your checking account or your credit card, and you'll just look at your app and it'll show you, okay, here's how much money's coming in, here's how much money's coming out, here's what I'm spending on. You can, say, oh man, there's this concert I want to go to in a few months. I really want to go to it, but I don't have the money right now. So, how do I get on a plan that'll help me budget for that? And these apps will do it for you. Really seamless, real easy to use. But I'd also like to point out that, the big banks where a lot of us hold our deposits and our checking accounts and credit cards, they, Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, they all have their own apps as well. And these big banks have really embraced mobile banking over the past few years, and their own apps offer a lot of the same functionality.
Right.
So I would say it's right there, right at the App Store, right at your fingertips.
Yeah, and I guess you mentioned something important there because you mentioned credit cards or debit cards in that account. Even if they're not exactly banking, I'm sure that there's technology that they can use that, if they get $10, $20 from their parents and they want to still log it, I think that they can still do that as well using technology just to manage their finances, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's, the power of Microsoft Excel is truly amazing. But, and like you even said, obviously not everybody's going to have a bank account, especially if you're under the age of 18. But I think a lot of people are familiar with the apps, Venmo and the Cash App. These are apps that they were designed for people that don't have bank accounts. So, and allow for the seamless transfer of money. So it's really, in my own business, I utilize Venmo to pay vendors and whatnot, and it really makes life a lot easier. Maybe another point is, just because we talked about generating income, just something to be aware of is that when you generate income, at a certain point, you will have to pay taxes. You might want to realize that what's that threshold, or if my parents claim me as a dependent, what's that threshold? Maybe you want to just look for invest. You want to learn how to invest that income you made. Maybe this is a cop-out, but Google is your best friend. Google has really all the answers, and you can learn a lot in just a very small amount of time. So questions like that, it's right at your fingertips.
Yeah, and I think that we want to inspire our students and our viewers to be resourceful. So I don't think that they are expecting to get all of the answers from us here today. But yeah, Googling certain questions and building upon what they learned today, I think that they'll be, in really good hands. So maybe we'll even zoom out a little bit and just talk about overall spending habits, how to kind of, manage what's coming in versus what's going out. And to get your thoughts on that, I think will be great for them.
I'm really glad you asked, Kyrie. This is actually something I'd really like to hammer home and really emphasize here. I have a few points on this, just because I think that developing good spending habits is the most important part of having the right financial mindset. Remember that it's easier to control your expenses rather than controlling your income. Let's think about it, right? So when you have to actively make the decision. You have to actively push the button or swipe your card to make a purchase, right? Whereas there are many things out of your control that can affect your income generation. And look at our current environment due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Extremely unfortunate. Millions of people filing for unemployment. That's millions of people that have now lost their income generator, and it's really about developing good spending habits. So actually, it kind of segues into my next point, is that spending, savings, and generating income, it's really all related. And it's related in this way. So the less you spend, the more you can save. And the more you can save, the more you can invest and harness that power of compounding interest that we were talking about earlier, and be on the beach making your money with just your money working, it's really related. And then that money can be put into a reserve fund, and, now you're better prepared for, these unexpected events that are undoubtedly going to happen, over the course of your life.
A lot of these students, they might have even heard, hey, if you skip a cup of coffee, if you're going to pay $5 for that coffee, like 300 days, if you save that, now you have 1,500 like in that year or something like that. So I think what you're saying is a really good point in terms of, cutting down on what you can cut down on to manage those expenses. That's a great point.
Yeah, and no, absolutely. And that actually is related to what I was just about to bring up. And that's something I actually just learned recently. I was listening to a podcast, and I learned about what is called kakabo. And it's the Japanese method of saving money. And it's essentially a series of questions you are encouraged to ask yourself before going ahead and making a purchase. So I want to touch on just a few of my favorites. The first being, and here's the beauty of kakabo. It's very simple and very easy to do. The first question is, can I live without this item? I think it's really helpful to distinguish between what we truly need and what we just want. That being said, I'm not saying never treat yourself, never buy the things you want, that's not realistic, right? But I encourage you to just ask yourself the question, at least.
What it's going to cost you if you do that. If you really got to have it, then you can have that conversation with yourself to know, what that cost is. I agree. That's a great point.
Absolutely. It's just a quick exercise. Just ask the question real quick. Another one, this one in particular hits home with me, and it's, will I actually use it? It hits home with me because I think about my closet right over here and how many clothes are in there that I've bought over the years that frankly I just do not wear. And it's a waste, right? That's a waste. And, should have been practicing kakabo earlier, but I'm sharing my experience with you guys so you don't end up in the same situation. But, it's, again, just an exercise of asking yourself the question. It'll really help you start to manage your expenses a little bit better. Last one is just asking yourself, based on my financial situation, can I afford this? And that's important because, if you think, oh, well, I have this much money in my wallet or in my checking account, and the item costs this much, as long as I have more on hand, then, I can afford it. Well, that's not true. The question here is based on my financial situation, can I afford it? And that's where I want to direct your focus, because you got to be realistic here. And, again, this really does tie into where we're currently at right now. You should be thinking about building up a savings, or, what a lot of people refer to as a rainy day fund. And the only way you can do that is if you are developing good spending habits and not spending on, impulsively buying things and whatnot. And if you're able to do that, you're going to build up these reserves, you're going to build up this rainy day fund, and you're going to be in a position where when life throws these curveballs at you, like COVID-19, now you're in a better position to weather the storm.
Right. And so that's a great point. I guess I really see it as, with what you're saying, if you have $100 and something costs 99, that doesn't just mean that you can afford it, because that's like a one-time purchase out of that 100, where, then you only have $1 left for X amount of time, which means that now you can't buy those other things that are $3, $4, and $5. So, you're saying that they shouldn't look at it as, do I have enough money on hand for this thing right now? It's like, hey, budgeting out, okay, I'm going to need this for this. I'm going to need, $20 for this. And then working with that leftover to see, okay, out of this, do I want to make that purchase or not?
You got it, Kyrie. You hit the nail on the head there. It's about, again, just assessing your personal financial situation. And again, the things we talked about earlier, like those apps and whatnot, they can all help you do that.
Got it. Okay. Well, I think, you've had so much insight, so many good thoughts that I think they could take away. So, for your final thoughts, do you have any major points that you'd want to hit for them, for our viewers at home?
First, I just want to talk general mindset, and that being, start training yourself now to start thinking about the long term. I know this is easier said than done. We all want to live in the present, think in the present. But the truth is, and the reality is that if we aren't thinking and planning and saving now, then there's a high likelihood that, when we do get down the road, when the future does happen, we might end up in a financial situation that is less than optimal. So, I encourage you, again, this is about, start thinking long term, remember the power of compounding interest and getting started early. So that's one of my, for sure. Regarding spending, this kind of ties back into Kakabo, but it's as simple as live within your means. And that's, again, we kind of discussed already, but it's thinking, do I really need this? Can I really afford this? A specific point I'd like to touch on is social media, actually, because it's become such a huge part of all of our lives, our daily lives. And, we're affected by it. We're influenced by it. But the reality of it is that influence is not always positive, at least in terms of, being in a sound financial mindset and thinking, putting yourself in a position to really have financial freedom in the future. What I mean is, I urge you and encourage you to not feel pressured by social media that, oh, I have to buy this. I need to have this type of car, these types of clothes so that I am liked or accepted. I just really want to kind of touch on this point because I see it all around. I think everybody feels it to an extent, but if you're just conscious of it, maybe, next time you'll think about it and be like, maybe I don't need this. I'm good. Things are good.
Right.
Lastly, I think I'd just like to leave you guys with my favorite quote. It's a quote by Vince Lombardi. He was the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, who won the first ever Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl trophy is now named after him. And the quote is this: "The dictionary is the only place where success comes before work." So I'd like to encourage you guys, don't let anybody tell you hard work doesn't pay off, because it does, even if that payoff isn't immediate.
That's awesome. I know you to be a hardworking guy. Ever since I met you, you always knew your rhythm, your flow, but you were hyper focused in terms of even being able to stay in the same spot and just lock in, in the library while studying. I think that, I've definitely seen you put in the work, and I'm glad that you really hammer that point home for our students and viewers out there. Hard work is extremely essential, and you embody that. And overall, I think that you're also someone who always gives back, someone who is humble and tries to help others. So once again, I can't thank you enough for being our first guest on this webinar to help inspire the kids.
Wow. Thank you, Kyrie. those are such kind words. I really do appreciate you guys having me. It's truly an honor to be here and, just kind of be able to share my experience. And, hopefully that's how this continues to work, right? Is, we learn through hard work, and then hopefully we can pass on those lessons and share them with everybody else, and fostering positive relationships, which is such an important thing in life. It really does start with, not thinking like, what can I get out of this relationship, but what can I give into this relationship? What can I do for this person and for these people? So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that, Kyrie. It's been an absolute pleasure, and just thank you again.
The pleasure is all mine. And from everyone here at Building BLOC, once again, thank you. And for you being a mentor, even someone that the students can reach out to, ask questions, get a little advice, whether it's about general life stuff or if it's just about the financial aspects that you pointed out today. I think that you've got a wealth of knowledge, especially for your age. I think that they're just a little bit younger than you, but they'll love to pick your brain and kind of get those tidbits, that glimpse into the future to figure out how to move and how to think. So I guess, we'll wrap here, but thank you again. And for those at home watching, thank you for tuning in to our first webinar, and you can expect to see more of our mentors sharing their insight and letting you know what they really think is important for you to grow and achieve your goals. So thank you at home. This video will be available, and let us know what you think, and we'll continue to make more and help you out. So thank you.